Welcome to the blind zone. What is a blind zone, you say? It's something that you never saw coming or something that you refuse to see that was right in front of your face. And today's episode of the blind zone is called Wasted Time. And actually, this is turning out to be a three-part series about my food issues and my weight. Uh, but hopefully this is the last one because I've learned my lesson. And maybe I'll do an update in 6 months and tell you how great I'm doing at this. Anyway, let's backtrack. In the first video that I talked about my weight issues, that was called Pride. And then the next one was called Sneaky Stalker. And this one is Wasted Time. So if I think about it in a linear fashion, it was like, let's think about the Pride video. And it was like I was looking at it from maybe a half a mile down the street. So you could kind of see the problem. You could see some of the players involved, but you didn't get a real good picture of what that Pride issue was doing with, with concerns to my food and my weight. So I really had continued to pray about that. And then when I did Sneaky Stalkers, I had recognized that part of the problem was I had believed some of the lies, most of the lies that Satan was telling me about these food issues. So we'll move that closer. So now we've gone from a half a mile away to now we're in the driveway. And I thought, oh, that's good. I've really learned a lot. But it wasn't enough. And so I prayed some more. And then that's where we land today. Because I really had to think about the lies that I had believed that Satan was telling me about my food issues, my supposed food insecurities, my weight, and all the other things. And 1 a.m, I was lying there and contemplating the whole thing. And it came to me that the lie I had believed the whole time was that growing up, I did not have enough food to eat. So the next day, I texted my sister and I emailed my brother and I asked them 2 questions. Did you ever feel that we did not have enough food in our house? And did you ever go hungry? And both of their responses was one word: no. And I thought about that. And I ate breakfast every morning. I carried a lunch with me to school, or I bought lunch at school. And I sat down around the table with my family for dinner every night. So I didn't have a food insecurity. I didn't have a lack of food. I just had that insecurity in my head. So a half a mile down the road, looking at it from Pride, yes, those were true things, but I wasn't looking close enough. Then the Sneaky Stalker, I was in my driveway, and yes, those were true things, but I wasn't drilling down enough. So then when I finally got to it, and it's wasted time, how much time I wasted believing a lie that, to say it wasn't even true, I mean, that's what a lie is, something that's just not true. But it was just so blatantly not true. And why I never examined that for myself. Because I thought it has affected so many things. Again, the trip to Peru, where I brought snacks along, I couldn't trust the Lord to provide food for me. And unfortunately, how this manifested further was that when I was married to my son's father, he truly did have food insecurities. So when he shopped, if you thought 1 can of something was good, 15 must be better. And every morning before he left for work, he gave me a detailed list of the things that he was expecting for dinner that night. He did all the shopping because he wanted to really control that we had enough to eat, or more importantly, that he had enough to eat. And I understand where he was coming from. He really did have those issues, but I did not. But because of his feeding into that, I continued to believe the lie that I too had that problem. So from the time he left up until a few weeks ago, I still believed that lie. So once I unveiled that and pulled it apart like, like taffy, I recognized that I now have to do things differently. And when I had purchased in bulk, I have to admit, the irony of that is while I felt I didn't have enough food, the irony was when I bought too much, I wasted a lot of it because and I buy things, and for a while there I was eating a lot of one item, and then they came to not agree with me anymore. And I had all these items purchased, and some of it you just can't give away, and a lot of it I had to throw away. And so that was the biggest sadness to me, that I had believed the lie from Satan that I didn't have enough food, so I bought in bulk only to waste the food that God had provided. And so I won't do that again. And again, I live within a half a mile of 3 grocery stores. So it's not like I'm in the middle of Nowheresville and I would have to hook up my horse to a cart and drive it there. All those are just things I used as horrible excuses. So now I shop once a week. I try to do once every other week just for convenience. But you know what? I tell myself I can shop once a week. It's fine. And I am doing better. Yesterday I made a fabulous mushroom barley soup, and I have enough for a couple days. So that's good. I'm making better recipes. I'm making better choices. But I have to tell you, just because I recognized it and unveiled the lie for what it was, it doesn't mean that it's evaporated, that now that I've seen the fog and I can use a fog machine and blow it away. I have to work on this daily because yesterday I had convinced myself that I only needed 2 meals and that I would just eat a bigger meal when I made my soup. I should have eaten my 3 meals. I eat small meals. So it is still a wrestling match because now that I've outed Satan for what he's doing, he still wants to play in the game. He still wants to poke at me with a stick. And I have to be very cautious that I don't let him do that anymore. So I felt bad that I submitted to just 2 meals instead of the 3 that I should have done. But I recognized it for what it was, and I wanted to make better choices in the future. So what have I learned from this? And here's the other thing I have to tell you. Sometimes I can be way overzealous, and when I learn something, I want everybody to learn that same lesson. And so I am only saying what I'm saying, that these are the things I learned with my food insecurities. I did have a pride issue with that because we all like to look nice or whatever we tell ourselves. And what the scale says does impact how you think about yourself. But the lie Satan was telling me was the thing that really tripped me up. But then I had to realize what it was I had bought into the whole time. So those are things I had to deal with. And I had to ask myself, what is the lie? Now, if you have food issues, or I'm not telling you to apply any of this to you, again, this is a grace space. This is a safe space. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm just showing a very vulnerable part of who I am and how this is related in my own life. So again, when I started the Blind Zone, I was anticipating these being much different than they've worked out to be. But I will tell you, as I told my hairdresser this morning, because see the really cute do? That's why we're taping this today. Again, pride, total pride. Anyway, like I told her, one of the things that I have recognized with doing the Blind Zone is every week, if I have a guest or even if I have to drill down to things going on in my life, I have learned so much through the taping of these that I would never exchange it for anything that I would have been doing otherwise. Phew, all that to say. So again, maybe in 6 months we'll come back and revisit this, and I'll have a big pride head because I'll have done so well, but that remains to be seen. Anyway, thank you for joining me on this episode of The Blind Zone, where I explain wasted time, and I have a surprise for next time, so I'm not going to divulge what that is because, again, that's what a surprise is. So thanks again, and we'll see you next week on The Blind Zone.